What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back today with more Danmachi. Now, today we're going to talk about something a little speculative, I guess you could say. Really one of the most anticipated, I would argue, quality of life updates that is really soon coming to the game is the weapons pity system. And arguably, this is something we've needed for an extremely long time. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, okay, if we go into blacksmith, we go to crafting. I probably got something new in here I could craft. Let's see here. What could I craft that is new? That's a good question. Here we go. Anti-magic talons. Perfect. So, with the anti-magic talons, basically, if I go in here, I go to craft these. I've got enough stuff to do it. Hit the button. And it did not go rainbow, which means I am at something less than base, or something less than top stats. So I can already tell you 217 isn't base, but it could be better. Now, also over here, you notice I got critical 15, and strength 30. That's a great stat. That's a phenomenal stat. And as it stands right now, that's perfect for me. I don't think I want to try to risk that. But coming down the pike here really soon, there might be something better. So, instead of equipping that now, because I believe that's Gross's, let's go ahead and jump over to the rehammer system and talk about this. Because as it stands right now, if we go into status, okay, and I'm pretty sure it's a melee weapon, as one would suspect. And see, I've got a lot here. It is not a melee weapon. Is it? There it is. Anti-magic talents. Okay. So, as it stands right now, basically I come in here, and I've got 2,600, almost 2,700 secret hammers. That's great, because who knows how long it's going to take for me to get to 230. In fact, most of the time, I don't know about you guys, for me, if I get like to 221, I'm like, that's close enough. I'll leave it there. That's fine. Because the physical attack difference between 221 and 230 really ain't that great. I know I'm now splitting hairs between 221, 230, and 217 to 221, but the reality is I want to get as close to that 230 as possible. And realistically, it doesn't happen very often. So let's go ahead and hammer. And what we're going to look for is we're going to look for a rainbow crafting. Now, we got gold. And we got a 194, so it got worse. So let's try this again. And just see what we get. And basically, go away. Where do those stupid things go? There they are. So let's try this again. So I got a 194, and 190 is the smallest stat. So we basically got darn near the worst possible crafting. Okay, 212. Not as good as what we had before, but it is getting warmer. So basic... God, that is annoying. Dear Right Flyer, please fix that. Because I really, if I already have it tied to somebody, which I actually don't in this situation, but if I tied it to somebody, it would still ask me, hey, do you want to send that? I'm so sick of seeing that. It derails this process so much. So when you're fixing the crafting system, please fix that as well. It is majorly annoying. But we're at 212. Let's see if we can get to 230. Now, there's no guarantee. It could go up. It could go down. I can get a 190 on this one, 190 being the lowest. Okay, we got a 226. So in most situations, right here, I would stop, and I go, perfect. Well, okay, not perfect. Excellent. Not quite the best stat, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Now, would you stop that? That is super annoying. See, that's what I say. I just want to go in here and I want to craft. I really want to rehammer stuff. I don't want to sit there and fart around with that screen. Okay, so 203. So I just literally ruined that stat that I just made. But let's try it a few more times and see if we're able to get the rainbow rehammer on this. Because I'm willing to bet probably not. It usually takes forever. So we're back to 226. And by all rights, I would say anybody that's at 226, 221 or better, leave it alone for right now. But you see here, like, I literally just got the same stat. Everything's telling me stop and don't proceed. But we're really hoping that on this video we'll get a rainbow craft. And now I've thrown quite a few hammers. I haven't even kept track, but quite a few secret hammers at this rehammering. And I'm okay with that, frankly. I have a ton of them. And if I'm totally honest here, what is it, 5 hammers apiece? There are some things that are 25. So there's 221. That's what I was saying was a pretty good stat. But let's see. So it's 5 secret hammers. And with 2,600 of these bad boys, I could just go all day. But the reality is, a lot of people that haven't been playing this for, since it dropped on the US side of the game, a lot of you guys probably don't have 2,600 hammers. A lot of you guys maybe have a couple hundred, and so they then become significantly more precious. You're not going to sit here for the sake of making a video and just drop, I don't know, let's just say an arbitrary number, like 50, 60 hammers just for the sake of it. See, 226, right there, I should stop, but I'm honestly still going. Now, here's where the pity system would become absolutely substantial. So by the time I drop 100 hammers in here, I'm back down to 194. I could have absolutely nothing. I could have the worst stats at 100 hammers. So we got Rainbow now, and that's perfect. So now we got 230. Now, somebody go back and tell me in the comments how many hammers I dropped. I'll pin that comment. But, you know, I will tell you it took a substantial sum. So that, by and large, is not how quickly I found it usually happens. I have dropped 150, 200 hammers trying to find that magical perfect number and not been able to pull it off. Or like today, it happens in just, less than 5 minutes. It is 100% up to chance. So what the weapon pity system should ideally do, give you a specific number, okay? Maybe as, when you craft a weapon, you're given a certain number of them too. And I know people that craft 2 or 3 of each weapon because every rehammer still costs you Valis up top. So, I had a little over 9 mil, almost 10 mil Valis, which I know is fairly low, but I'm bad at farming Valis. I'm down to 8.9 mil. So I spent like 1 million Valis farming this bad boy. And it's 100k per craft. I actually probably could have crafted it and gotten it and had a backup weapon as well. Now, I don't have a second Gross, and I don't know if we'll ever get a second Gross, so I don't know if it's really worth doing that. I'm assuming that's Gross. It seems like Gross. It's a Xenos, if nothing else. So, when it comes to the actual crafting, I would love to see a pity system that lets you craft, let's say 5-6 weapons, and then lets you more or less choose a stat. When it comes in here, let's say drop 100 hammers. After you drop 100 hammers, it's guaranteed to get you, and I don't know if this is actually what it is, but ideally in my mind, after you drop 100 hammers, it should guarantee you and say, okay, you're going to get a perfect stat. But if you drop 50 hammers, maybe you can hit a button, it'll give you a close-ish stat, 226, 221, something in that range. So that would be super nice, but that's really only about half of this, and we don't know if that's how this is going to work. This is just theoretical on my part, and you let me know what you guys would like to see, because frankly, there should be 2 thresholds. The easy threshold, the one where you drop, 20, 30, whatever it is, do a certain number of these rehammers, and then it guarantees you, you can hit a button and it guarantees you a decent stat. Or you spend, maybe if you hit the button, you spend another 50 hammers when you hit the button and it guarantees it to you. But you should have to work for it. I don't want it to be one of those things where, like, I've got 6,000 hammers. I could just spam the button and drop 100 hammers each time and do it. Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. It would save a lot of time. I think you should honestly still work for it a little bit. I don't think this is one of those things like me, who's, hoarding these hammers, should be able to go in there and just got perfect stat, got perfect stat, got perfect stat. That kind of bores me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I do think that is boring. So, same thing for armor. If I go in here to, rehammer armor, anything you see on the screen here is not at max stat. So let's just say Intaria the Jester here. I don't think I really care. Actually, Intaria the Jester, I do care. Glorious armor, for the sake of all things. So 228 on glorious armor. This is level 60. So 230 would be the highest. 231 would actually be the highest. So I could go all day and just do the same thing, but literally it's the same thing. Status with weapon and status with the armor are almost identical. Now, attributes are where it kind of gets interesting. If you're not familiar, let's go find those anti-magic claws again. I'm going to filter this down by melee weapons. Okay, and where are they? I feel like I've already passed them. Anti-magic talents. Here we go. Now, you will notice that every melee weapon I have is in here, because you can recraft. Didn't I get a 230? It says 226 up there. Didn't I get a 230 on those? Did I skip and craft something else? Whatever. It doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna wonder what I got my 230 on. Maybe I clicked on the chakras. Whatever. Doesn't matter. We got a rainbow. I'll edit that right. We'll just like here. Me in post. Cut, like right now, cut that 230 out and then just like tape it right there. There you go. No one will be any the wiser. Moving on. So let's say for the sake of argument, I actually did get the rainbow on my anti-magic talents like I thought I did, and apparently wasn't paying attention while I was producing this video. Embarrassing. But if we go to rehammer this, now I did say before, so to understand the stats, okay, I can have up to 3 effects from this little selection down here. So I'm always going to have the 15% critical, and I would prefer to have the double critical like I do over there. Now, I could get 30 strength, I could get 10 strength. I can get agility 30, dex 30, and the extra critical. I can get up to 3 of these, but you notice I got 2, and honestly, you can get as low as 1. Now, the best build here would probably be critical 15, strength 30, and then probably, I'd have to go look at Gross, but I think Gross is the slower one, so probably dex 30, because I don't think agility 30 is going to give Gross much. He's if I recollect, he's the tank build, so agility doesn't help tanks, dex will. So in that situation, that or another one would be really good, would be strength 30, critical 15, and strength 10. But over here we've got critical 15, strength 30. I'm literally 2/3 of the way there. And as with anything else, if I went to just go rehammer this, I could do it over and over and over again and never, ever, 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 ever get back to this stat. So I'm not really willing to risk this stat. But let's see. Predator, what do we have here? Critical 15, strength 30, of course. Brawler, critical 15, dex 30. So I could actually, I could give this up. Let's go and rehammer this. Okay, we got another gold. We're looking for rainbow, and that would be 3 stats. But what would be really interesting, so critical 15, strength 30, but we didn't get the extra critical 15. I really want the extra critical 15. It makes a big difference in getting your criticals. So for dropping 5 more than Mystic Bellows, not a big deal. Agility 30, notice that's it. Didn't get the extra anything. So, you know, I could keep going all day. But 5 Mystic Bellows, and I've only got 600 of these. And let me explain why I only have 600 Bellows, where I've got 2,600 of the hammers. Number 1, it's a lot easier to get the other stats you want. Number 2, you'll notice in here, so I got Dex 30, and I'm literally back to where I started. So if I go up here to the top, I've got quite a few weapons. I don't think the Drake Claws have them, but like, let's say, I don't know, I don't think he has them either. But I probably have quite a few items in here that have multiple stats. So let's see. He's got agility 30, magic 30. That could be a lot better. Woven lore, I don't think is going to have much in the year. Yeah, strength 10, critical 15. But even if I had one that had a triple stat, like this, okay? Critical 15. I have an extra critical 15. So I've got 2 critical 15s. Agility 30 and strength 30. That's fantastic. Actually, for her, I'd love to have a dex 30 and an agility 30. I think that'd be even better. But for the sake of argument, notice I've got 3 stats and it still lets me rehammer. Because as I said, for her, I'd rather have a critical 15, agility 30, and dex 30. Because honestly, for her, critical's not that big of a deal. Or I say critical. Attack isn't that big of a deal. I'm not using her as an attack unit in most circumstances. Now, to be fair, the reason I'm not going to ruin this is because with some of the weapons and new skills that we've had added, I actually would like to max her out and actually keep her for some of the late game things on the Earth teams. So that actually maybe is a stat I don't want to ruin. Another reason why when we have 3 of these, I covet the hell out of that. But here's the deal. Even with that one, I said there are other stats I probably would prefer to have with her current build. Now, her future build might change that. But for her current build, I think that's fine. Okay? And the other thing is, look how much lower my bellows are than my hammers. Now, secret hammers I found are a lot easier to drop, but that just makes bellows more precious. Plus, if I go over here to the Magic Glorious Glove, okay? Let's grab this. Notice, Mystic Bellows jumped up to 25 on these. And part of the reason I don't have bellows is because I have the Glorious Gloves, and I've got these things called Behemoth Weapons, which those of you that were here for the first anniversary event, you'll recognize these. These are literally the prototype for the Glorious Glove. And I've rehammered every Behemoth weapon at least a dozen times. Notice 25 Mystic Bellows. That is a lot of recrafting. When all these first dropped, I was hammering down on these. Now, I don't think these are really worth as much anymore. They would have their purposes for certain people, but now that most everybody has a specific weapon, I think the Behemoth and the Glorious Weapons really don't do much. But what the Behemoth and the Glorious Weapons do, if I go in here,
Notice it gives me HP 200, okay? 2 HP stats. I can get up to 5 HP 100 stats. So let's just, for the sake of silliness, man, I hate to blow 25 of these bad boys, especially on a weapon I'm probably never going to use. But for the sake of the video, let's do it. So I just blew 25 bellows. That's 5 recraftings on another weapon. And I got an extra HP 100. Now, as I said before, this is not the norm. You could wind up with 2 like before, or I could wind up with 1. Or I could wind up with 4, or I could wind up with 5. It's really a crapshoot. Now, sake of argument here, let's say there was a situation where the behemoth and the glorious weapons, because glorious weapons are exactly the same thing, 25 bellows, and I could get up to, up to 500 HP, which you could probably already see situations where that might be useful. I don't think there's a huge amount of those anymore, especially considering, like I said, most everybody has a specific weapon. But back in the day, that was not the case. There was a good bit of time where only a handful of units, in fact, only Bell for a while, had a specific weapon. So, if we ever go back to a situation where they drop a new unit, or we have an event where HP just becomes paramount, or as you guys have done EX missions with me and stuff like that, a lot of times I say HP is one of your biggest stats. HP and defense are one of your biggest stats. So if you can come in here, get a weapon that gives you 500 HP on top of whatever your other stuff is, that actually could help you, especially if you have like +1, +2, and I'm like, you got to have a +3 to survive this. You could cheat the system with this. You're not going to get much damage out of the unit, but with a lot of those EX missions, things become survivable. And that's just really just my argument for a lot of these situations. So, going back up to the Behemoth Gauntlet, 25 Mystic Bellows per drop. If there was something here where you dropped that, let's say the threshold was 100, 4 crafts on this, and then you had a button where you could choose, 300, 400, 500, whatever. Let's say at 100 crafts, or at 100 bellows dropped, and it's that would be my threshold. I would definitely make that the threshold, not the number of crafts, but the number of items dropped. So that way things like this become easier to craft and actually become worthwhile. Because remember, like I said, I've not used these in forever. And I spent a lot of time crafting these. I have not used them in an extremely long time. In fact, I'm sure somebody's going to comment, those are crap, why would you even bother? Well, I've already made the case for that, but once again, there are certain situations where your low-level units may need to survive. And while you can't really improve their deck stats or their agility stats or their defense stats, you can give them extra HP. So that is my one and only honest argument for these weapons at this point. But more to my point, let's say we get other weapons that require 25 bellows. Rather than dropping, if it's 20 crafts on another weapon, that'd be 4 crafts here. And I think that would be the best way to do it, personally, me. Now, if you disagree, definitely let me know in the comments. I think this is something that should be a discussion piece, because this is just literally like my perfect world. And I'm not saying that anybody else is right or necessarily wrong. But for me, this is what I'd love to see. A certain number of bellows dropped, a little button that lets you choose, drop more bellows. I mean, obviously you have to drop a decent number of them, but it then becomes a pity system. It's not a free system, but it at least gives you the opportunity to improve upon what otherwise really was, like I said, I could sit here all day and get nothing. And I've had days where I sit here, I'm like, man, I need top marks of this weapon for this event, especially Record Buster. And I could sit here all day and just click, 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 click. And the next day, oh man, I got nothing yesterday. Click. Okay, well, it's literally just a random number generator. It is literally just RNG. So, know the pity system is coming. I'm not saying this is what it's going to be. All I'm saying is, in a perfect world, that is what I would like to see. Now, if you have revisions, if you have different ideas, once again, this is a discussion piece, and I would love for the comments section to just go wild with this. So, let me know what you guys thought. For now, that's going to be my ideas, and I may even revise this later, but here, this spring, we are getting the pity system, and I'm just putting my ideas out there for now. Put yours in the comments, and I don't know. We'll see who's right, who's wrong. See you guys in the next one. Like, comment, and share.